welcome back to the Rock Your Comeback podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Eaton, and we're back with another episode of our unnamed series. We need your help with Christy Forsyth. We need your help. Just
Unnamed
across the
series. Maybe
board.
we just call it that.
I need your help.
I don't know.
I
We
need
need your
your help.
help. Unnamed series. I don't know.
But these are some of my most popular, highest downloaded episodes. So all the ones with Christy you're gonna want to go back and listen to because we're fucking fun. We're a good time.
Yeah, I mean, thanks guys. I didn't know that. That's so much fun. I love that.
Yeah, our episodes are getting like around 50,000 downloads per episode. So yeah, you're gonna want to listen to them. They're good content. And today we're talking about our really unpopular hot takes about being therapist, mindset, intuition, spirituality, like all the things that are probably a little controversial. So you're gonna want to like listen and you're gonna want to give us feedback and let us know if you think we're fucking crazy or not.
I'm excited about it because like you guys have probably figured out by now I'm pretty weird and I definitely do things differently. Nicole and I both do things differently. So I'm excited to talk about it. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll make you guys think about things from a different perspective. And maybe you're open your eyes to a different way of seeing it all.
I think so too, because I think that I know, especially when I got into even like spirituality, like everyone's like, this is the way to do it. You go towards enlightenment. And like there was all these rules and things that I felt like I was always trying to live up to. And then at one point I was like, yeah, I just kind of do whatever the fuck I want. And like and I have stayed like that luckily ever since. But there are a lot of rules when it comes to mindset, when it comes to how to meditate, when it that we're gonna break today. So strap
We
in.
like to break rules.
We do. But first, we're starting with our little series within a series. Are things
I
we're loving.
guess a series within an unnamed series.
This is getting out of control. What are some things that you're loving right now, Christy?
Okay. So I started this with saying I'm weird, right? And so like this is a little aspect of myself that is my favorite part of my weirdness. So I in my membership I'm teaching an elementals and nature spirits class this week. And so it's kind of brought me back down that path as I'm prepping for it to just like connect with this stuff a little bit more. I haven't taught that class in a long time. I haven't connected with that stuff in a long time. So I've been just kind of thinking about it and reflecting on it and connecting with that energy. And so I've gone down this little rabbit hole of exploring all of these things. So this is when I say nature spirits, elementals, what I mean is stuff like fairies, gnomes, all of the fun stuff. Bigfoot is an elemental in my opinion. So have been focusing on all of those things, but the people in my membership have been eating this up and have been wanting to talk about it in our group sessions and stuff like that. So we've also been talking about cryptids, which are like a combination of maybe they're man-made, maybe they're elementals. We don't really know, but they're like things like, well, some people say Bigfoot is a cryptid. Some people say things like dogmen. Have you ever heard of dogmen before?
I'm thinking of the kids' book, but no.
No, not that. But it kind of is like that. It kind of is like these combinations of these like beastie kind of things. And so, long story short, I've been just like exploring all these things and it's been fun and there's been these conversations. And so I've been just like diving in. I've been leaving things out for the fairies again because you can
I
leave
love
them
it.
little gifts and they will help you. I haven't done that in so long. So that's been really fun and having these conversations. And so somebody in my membership brought up that he saw this owl, maybe a cryptid. It was like a giant looking owl, like beastie kind of thing. And so I had never heard of that before. And I was looking it up and I looked up names for it. And the name that came up for that it was called Big Hoot. Instead of Bigfoot, Big Hoot.
I mean,
And I
that's
don't know. I was really entertained by it. And so that's just what I've been loving is like all of the fun and the magical stuff and just playing with it. Because I think when we just let ourselves be playful and we start to look beyond the veil, we start to understand that there are a lot of magical things in this world. And we let ourselves just kind of imagine it and connect with that energy and all that stuff, I think it's a lot of fun. So that's been a big focus for me lately.
That was so deep. I was gonna say chips and dip.
Well, it's a big hoot. So
You did say thank you. No, I was gonna say, okay, so listen, I know this is not spiritual and I know this is not about mindset or even taking good care of your body, but I love a fucking good kettle cooked chip. You know those kettle chips? Do you know what I'm talking about?
oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Oh, so those with hell of a good dip, which by the way, did you know that's
Mhm.
like a East Coast thing? My friends from
Really?
California were like, "What is this magic?" And then my friend went back to California. She's like, "They don't have it out there." So if you're listening and you're somewhere else, you might not have hell of a good dip, and I'm so sorry. But this has been my
Yeah. Oh,
fucking
we'll pray for you.
I know. This has been such a vice for me over the last few days. So I know that's not spiritual, but it's bringing me so much fucking joy and I don't regret it literally at all. Oh,
You
and
know, I
with
have to say,
also not spiritual.
yeah. But a lot of people with chips and dip, they like the ridges. I don't
Yeah.
like the ridges. I'm gonna just put myself out there and say that. But a kettle chip I do like with dip.
But the like plain lays will break off in the dip.
Yeah, yeah, they're not strong enough.
Or you have to do the kettle cooked chips.
Yeah,
People are like, I
yeah.
thought this was
I
a
don't
middle
like the
ground.
ridges.
I'm really confused on this whole story. You did say the things we were loving, and I also have just been loving, like I have just been exploring and I love going to different areas. I've been in Utah for the last week, and then I went to in Vegas, which is a different energy, all of in all itself. But like I love like being in different towns and cities and just like feeling into the energy and the history there. It's just so cool. And it just is a really good reminder. I'm like sitting on the edge of this cliff in Bryce Canyon and I'm like, I'm so small. Like I'm so small and nothing I do matters. Like at the end of the day, like these like stones and these hoodoos have been formed for years. And it's just like a good solid reminder that like, I don't know, the things that we think matter don't actually matter. Like they matter in our day-to-day lives. But if we step outside of it, it's like, oh, this isn't bad at all. You know, I don't really actually have to worry
Yeah,
about
I think when you yeah, like I think too when you do stuff like that, when you're just out in nature and you're connecting with how beautiful it is and you're connecting with the sky and you're doing all that, I feel something activated within me when
yeah.
I do that. And it is like it's just this knowing that I'm taken care of, that God is real, that God created all of this, that God created me, and like just this knowing, and that there's all of this wisdom and history and all this beauty that we can connect with all the time. I don't know. There's something about that that just brings such peace. And I feel like it activates something within us.
Yeah, for sure. And like even different places like bring out different things. Like Bryce Canyon was so mysterious. Like it was so grounded. And like I was with one of my friends who isn't really like she doesn't talk about energy in the universe the way I do, right? But she was like, it just feels mysterious here. Like not bad, but it feels like almost heavy, like pulling me down. And I'm like, yeah, like this is the most grounded place I've ever been, maybe in my entire life. But then 2 hours away, we go to Zion National Park, and it's like, this feels like magic. Like Zion National Park feels like absolute just the only word I can use is magic. Like it just feels special and different. So yeah, it's really cool. I think different places activate different energies in you and different reminders within you and kind of help you feel a certain way. So if you've been in your little hole all summer, here's your reminder to go explore. Even if it's not, you don't have to go to Utah to explore. You can go 30 minutes in a direction you don't typically go and just feel into the energy of the place you're going, because that matters too.
Definitely. It helps to reset you. It helps to move the energy. So I find if I'm feeling stuck, if I go somewhere else, that helps to move my energy along too. And it helps to create change for me in whatever circumstances I'm feeling stuck
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm loving right now, chips and dip and exploring.
in.
And fairies and cryptids and calling them in. Um, But today we're talking about our main topic outside of making you all hungry is hot takes. And I'm gonna invite you to go first. And what's your hot take? And being an intuitive therapist, soul therapist for the last 20 plus years. What do you think?
Mhm.
It's a really unpopular
So
opinion.
you know, I think I've shared here before that so my background is in mental health counseling and did that for a long time. And so I've had the opportunity to see what that work looks like versus the work that I do now that's more focused on energy and intuition and spirituality and all of that stuff. So I've kind of gotten to see both. And one thing that really has stood out to me from the mental health side of things is the way that with the mental health side of things, we have to not have to, but oftentimes there's a requirement for some kind of a diagnosis with that.
Mm, yep.
And I think that there is some kind of value with that because it can help people to understand what's going on. It can help us to categorize what's going on, maybe to figure out if there is need for medication, what medication is needed, and all that stuff. So I do think that there's value to the diagnoses. But what I have also found in this work that I do now is that so many of the things that would fall into the lists of the symptoms and the descriptions of the diagnoses back then in that work that I used to do then, I personally think are better explained by energy now. So let me explain. So, for example, for most of my life, thought that I struggled with an anxiety disorder. I felt anxious all the time. I worried all the time and just felt this overall discomfort in my body most of the time. And as I started to learn more about energy, I started to understand that my body and my system and my brain was all just responding to energy. So, a lot of what I was labeling as anxiety, and had I had that assessed, maybe would have been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, was really better defined by being sensitive to energy, meaning that I'm very connected to the world around me and to the people around me so that I can take on energy from other people and I can feel into them. And sometimes my body processes that in a way that feels like what other people might describe as anxiety. I take on the energy of spaces. So if there's been a lot of things happening in a space, or there's just like a vibe in a space that doesn't feel good, I can take on the heaviness of that. And my body would process it in a way that might be described by other people as anxiety. And so I started to understand that a lot of what I was experiencing is just simply me being very sensitive to energy. So there's a lot that can be done with learning how to manage your energy field. And what I find is like when I teach people how to manage their energy field, they see a significant shift in whatever that diagnosis they may have or may think that they have.
Oh, 100%. Honestly, like, so working in mental health counseling, in traditional mental health counseling, like I realized for a long time, and I thought I just was in the wrong profession for a bit because I would go home and I was just so depressed and so like all over the place. And but then I realized and I started understanding energy and I'm like, "Oh, I'm taking on all this energy." And I remember one of the first times I really did an energy clearing, I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine." Like, I'm okay. And then it was a realization of like, "Oh, but when I'm around this person, I feel this way. And when I'm around that person or in this space, I feel this way." And so when you start to understand energy, especially in relation to depression and anxiety or even focus issues, I think that that can be an absolute game changer for somebody who is more quote unquote emotional to understand that and to learn how to separate that. And even I was just working with a client one on one and we got to the end of the session and we were talking about resentment and she was like, I think I just like I just always have this underlying feeling of being resentful. And I was like, well, where does that sit on your body? And she was like, right over my heart. And I was like, I know, I can feel it. So we went in and cleared that out. And she was like, whoa, that was insane. Like, I can't believe, like, I've always known it felt heavy on my chest when I think about it, but to like move it and to shrink it and to like do all the things we just did with it, like, I feel so much lighter almost instantly. And so we can not only pay attention to the energy, but we can also move it super fucking fast and change the whole state and energetic field to feel better. And it can be snap of a finger, 5 seconds that we can move the energy that you've been carrying for years.
And it's so powerful and it makes such a difference. And that's why I do what I do now. It's probably why you do what you do now is you see such a shift in people where it used to take years. I've had both experiences, so I get to compare it and I see the progress that people make now. Even just something as simple as surrounding yourself in a bubble of light every day. And I actually have a meditation for that. I can give you the link for that for the show notes. It's so simple and it's something you can totally do yourself. But once you get a sense of, it's helpful to have somebody lead you through it. But basically, what you do is you just surround yourself in that bubble and you're setting the intention that you're letting the good vibes through because it's a superpower to be able to feel into people, to connect with people so deeply. That's a superpower, but you don't want that superpower to get the best of you. So you want to set up a system of filtering so that it's saying, okay, we're going to let the sun shine through, but it's kind of like a screen window. We're going to keep the flies out. We don't want the heavy energy. We don't want to take on other people's energy because when we do that, we're carrying it for other people and that doesn't serve them and it certainly doesn't serve you. And so once you start to set up energetic boundaries, I find that it helps people significantly. I've had people start with just that and it's completely changed their lives. Just that tool. Because
Yep.
what you're doing is you're starting to take your energy back and you're starting to have boundaries with that. And so then the energy knows what to do and you're just not taking it on in the same way.
Well, and we can be so influenced. Even I always say if you're having repetitive thoughts or like ruminating, like that's usually energy and we can move that. And that is such a huge thing, right? I always compare it to like having a helmet on and not being able to like get any fresh energy in. And once you take the helmet off, you're like, wait, I can think differently. So if you're somebody who's like ruminating and your coping skills aren't working, like you just keep thinking about the same thing over and over and over again, that's a sign, dead sign, you need to clear your energy. So I 100% agree with all of this. I think energy and mental health go hand in hand. And once you start to understand that and work through that, that it's a total game changer.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it's the root of almost everything. Even when we see people who are struggling with significant mental illness, I would be curious what would happen if there was some kind of a treatment that was supporting people with helping them to master their energy field. Like,
100%.
how might that be different? It's
Yeah.
certainly really empowering to have the tools and to be connected with that and to have a sense of, okay, I have something that I can do with this. And I think that, like you're saying, when you're talking about ruminating, we can do some things. Energy is oftentimes moved through visualization. And
Yes.
so we can do some things through simply choosing to let go of that in some form of a visualization. And people overthink this. They think, oh, I've got to like do it this way or there's a right way to do it. No, what I would do is just like close your eyes and take a minute and ask yourself, like you were saying earlier, where am I carrying this in my body? Or how is this impacting me? And where do I need to clear in my body? And then just going in and pouring light into that area of the body. And that's going to help you to let those thoughts go. Sometimes there are energetic cords that are more powerful that can connect you. Especially, I find people get stuck in rumination when there is like a cord connected to their head.
Yeah.
And so you can, again, in your mind, close your eyes and say, okay, are there any energy cords that I need to see that I need to clear right now? And if in your mind you envision that there is a cord, you can take that cord and you can envision that you are dissolving that cord and letting that go. You are going to feel lighter. You're going to feel better. You don't even need to know what's on the other side of that cord because cords can connect to all kinds of things. They can connect to thought forms, they can connect to people, can connect to places. And so when we dissolve that, essentially we're setting ourselves free. And that is going to help support your mental health because you're going to feel better and you're going to feel lighter and you have intentionally released something.
And the one thing I'll say about that, because I'm not a super visual person, so sometimes, especially if I'm in a rougher mental space, it's harder for me to envision it and it's harder for me to feel powerful envisioning it. The power of intention and the power of just feeling through it, even if you can't see it in your head, is just as effective. So if you're somebody who's like, yeah, that'd be great if I could visualize, but when I close my eyes, it's just dark, like this is a really good uh part for you to just know that like this is what I'm doing. This is what my intention is. And I'm going to like see if I can feel into where that would be on my body, even if I can't picture it. So just like a little loophole. Okay. So this is my hot take. You cannot do enough affirmations, meditate, work out, journal enough to outrun a life that you're not supposed to be in. I think
Oh,
that
that's such a good one.
Yeah, I think that like we try to resolve the symptoms of being out of alignment with our life and aren't sure why they're working when the reality is we need to make a choice or take an action to move out of the actual circumstance or the job that isn't working and taxing our nervous system or the relationship that's no longer the right fit or the place we're no longer supposed to be living. Like until we make those choices, those symptoms, and I call them check engine lights, and in Rock Your Comeback, my book, like we talk about like those feelings of anxiety and depression. Not only are they energy, but sometimes they're just your soul's check engine light that you're not supposed to be in that situation anymore. And until you actually feel brave and strong enough to face the fear to make the choice, you're going to continue to feel those. So if you're somebody who's like, well, I'm doing all the things and I'm doing the affirmations and I'm manifesting every day and I'm clearing my energy, but I still feel like this, then it's also might just be a sign that you need to take an action step towards getting out of a situation that isn't the right fit for you, or getting away from a person who isn't the right fit for you, or getting out of the job that is draining you, or getting out of the place that you're not supposed to be living anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that was what happened for me when I was transitioning into this work that I'm doing now. It started with a little bit of discomfort and then that grew and grew and grew. And it was this thing that got my attention so that I could start to look around and go, okay, something has to change here. Something has to shift. I think a lot of times, like if we're comfortable, we don't make a lot of changes. We aren't necessarily making a lot of progress. And so that discomfort can push at you to help you to make those changes, to take those actions, or to even explore what is it that I actually want? Where do I want to go here? I'm a big believer that God, universe, whatever you want to call that, will make you uncomfortable when you have reached a time in your life where you're meant to make a change. And I see a lot of people who come to see me who are very stuck in that, right? And that discomfort gets so strong that they come in to see me, that they schedule an appointment with me. And so they get to that place where they have to take a look at what changes do they need to make. And it helps you in a lot of ways. But I also find that people will get stuck if you ignore that. You can get stuck in a pattern of trying to numb it in some way.
Yeah, I mean,
Whether it's
escapism, scrolling, shopping, drinking, not being present in your life, like those are all red flags that we probably need to take an action we're too scared to take, or we're too scared to even admit that we need to take. And so I think this is like just a reminder that that your life is in your control and that you can take a chance on yourself and on your future, but the discomfort is going to continue to increase. And I think, I don't know about you, Christy, but Christy and I worked together at a counseling agency, and that's how we met. Is I was Christy was my boss and I was her intern, and we worked there together for a long time, and honestly like a little family. Like we both just loved that place. I really couldn't even see myself leaving. I was happy. I had the best clients. I had the best coworkers. We were all just like a little family. And then when about the time where we started working on our spirituality and realizing like energy was a bigger part of this, and doing our own research and our own studying and our own classes on like our personal development and what we believed about mental health to be true, and energy's roles and spirituality along the way, that things got really uncomfortable. because we knew we couldn't be using that in a traditional counseling setting. We couldn't be talking about trusting your intuition. We couldn't talk about, here, let's clear your energy. And what happened was we ended up getting a new boss. And this new boss came in and basically changed the entire culture that we had come to love. And I mean, I just remember one of the last weeks that we were working there, I like pulled into the parking lot and I was just like crying in my car. I was like, I don't want to go in. And I realized I had never had that feeling before, that I didn't want to go into work. And that for me was like my red flag. Like, could I have stayed there another 10 years? Yeah, I could have. I could have stayed there for another 10 years. It was a stable job. I was helping people in the way I wanted to help them. But the reality was is that it was going to keep getting worse until I did something about it, or I was going to resort to like escapism of some kind, shopping, drinking, numbing, doom scrolling, whatever, if I didn't. And, when we made that jump, like everything really fell into place for us with our business that we created, to the point it was super sustainable. And I think like that's something to remind yourself of if you're somebody in that position, is that sometimes it doesn't look like, you're going to have fears and worries about when you make that leap, what will happen. But it's just a good reminder that, like, if you're feeling called to make that leap, the universe has got you. Like, it's going to work out if you stay true to the path and you stay true to your knowing and that belief and that pull that something's on the other side for you.
I think too, you can ask yourself, you can stay put. We could have stayed there 10 more years. You're right. But what's the cost of that for people if you continue to stay in a situation that on a soul level, you know that it no longer aligns for you? What is the cost? What is that going to do to your body, to your mind, to your well-being for the long term? And it's also preventing you from living the best possible path for yourself. I believe that when we follow this push to move in different directions, that's about honoring our intuition and honoring where we are being spiritually led to have our best life. And as we move in that direction, like Nicole's saying, there's a lot of magical support. This is where you get to see the magic. The magic would have not been if we stayed there another 10 years. There would have been no magic. It was not magical. She was not a magical boss. It was no longer a magical place to be.
Not a magical boss.
Keeping it real. She was not magical. Thank you, but no. And but it allowed us to get to the place that we needed to be and to see the magic. I needed personally to take that leap of faith. That was huge for me. I don't love change. I don't like taking leaps of faith. I had no money in my savings account when I decided to do that full time. But I did it anyway because my soul knew that I needed to. And I needed to see that. I needed to see the magic. I needed to see the way that God would show up for me when I decided to show up for me. And
Yeah.
that's where the magic happens, not when you stay stuck in the uncomfortable and you keep numbing it.
Yeah, you're not going to see, because that's like when we do more of the same, we see more of the same. So when we don't take those chances to do something new, we don't see anything new. And so we're constantly being like guided and pulled to our next best thing. And when we don't listen to it, we feel stuck because part of us knows we're not supposed to be there. And I think like that's when people find me, right? Is when they're feeling stuck or lost. I think that's just like a disconnection from what your soul like knows it truly wants, and the fact that you haven't been listening. And so that's my favorite part of the work I do with people, is just to remind you that it's safe to listen to yourself and it's safe to trust yourself. And like you can create some real magic when you start to just tune back in and pay attention, especially because I meet so many people who are intellectualizers and who are just really emotionally intelligent. And I actually just got off a call with somebody who was just super fucking emotionally intelligent, really knows, like, has the awareness, has read all the books, but does not pay any attention to what's happening in her body. So that's like really what we're working on, is like, okay, but what does your gut say? So this is like the morning routine you want to have, but like what one actually feels good when you play with the idea of it. And so I think it's fun to like help people tune back in to listen to themselves and to trust their gut and to let themselves be guided by that internal force, because that will tell you what to do. every single time it's telling you what to do. We get to help it speak louder.
Yeah, and it's such a once you get the hang of it, it's such a natural thing, and it's something that we're all meant to connect with because it is going to lead us. To me, this is like that connection to God, to source, to help to show us what's best for us, what's going to work out best case scenario for us in our life. And so we just want to tune in with it and we want to honor it and we start to trust it a little bit more.
Yeah. I have one last hot take, or do you have one that
Okay.
you're like obsessed with?
No, go ahead.
Okay. My last hot take is that you cannot fake high vibe. I think there is so much about like thinking positively and finding that high vibration and being enlightened and all this stuff that sounds really nice. And I think that a lot of people, once they start to learn about mindset, that they do the affirmations and they say the things, but they're just kind of like they're putting glitter on shit, right? Like they're just trying to like dress up something that isn't dealt with. And I think as much as we're talking about energy and frequency and vibration, that you can't tell yourself enough good things to really get rid of that heavier energy. And we do have to like get rid of some of that heavier energy before you can mean what you say when you're saying new stories.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be willing to take a look at the heavier stuff. We have to be willing to do the work. I call it shadow work, to look at that and to dive deep into the shadows and take a look at all of that and to focus on levels of healing and all of those things. And yes, affirmations are beautiful. Yes, doing things that make you feel good and high vibrational are beautiful, but there's something called the dark night of the soul, and oftentimes that comes in after somebody goes through a spiritual awakening. Why is that? Because you start to connect with higher vibrations, but you get to a sticking point where it's like, okay, like you can't feel any better until you deal with your shit that you've been packing aside for too long. And so whether you do that on your own through a process, whether you do that with Nicole or I, whether you do that with a therapist or somebody else, like you have to unpack that stuff or you're going to continue to stay stuck. And that is going to continue to impact how truly high vibe you are.
100%. And like one more related hot take is that chronic illness, in my opinion, is energetic. It's emotions trapped in your body that
Absolutely.
doesn't have anywhere to go. I actually have been watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Do you watch that?
No, I don't watch it.
Oh, you have to. It's peak television. Anyway,
It's like literally the only reality show I don't watch.
well, strap in because it's a good one. But one of the girls in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, I started watching this in Utah, by the way. This like makes perfect sense with my traveling. Um, I was like, I'm in Utah and honorary Mormon. So anyway, I'm starting to watch this episode, and this girl just has these like skin issues everywhere. And it comes out that she was sexually assaulted and her parents didn't believe her. And so she started holding everything in, and like so she wasn't saying her opinion a lot. And if she did, it was really angry. But when she started processing her emotions and energy, like her skin cleared up. And so when you hold stuff in, like that's toxins, man. Like when you're sitting with energy or emotions that you're not speaking out loud or that you're not moving through or processing, like it can and will make you fucking tired and make you potentially sick. So here's a sign. If you are dealing with chronic illness, it might be connected with emotions, and some energy work might help you move through some of those symptoms a little bit differently.
Definitely. I maybe I'll show a personal example about that real quick because this is my most recent example of that. So some of you guys know I've talked about how last year I had a frozen shoulder. And I had this, I'm going to make this a short story, but this terrible neighbor, and she was just incredibly disrespectful. And I am somebody who is not quick to anger. I don't get angry easily, but I wanted to kick this person's ass so bad, like to the point that my blood would be boiling and I just wanted to go over there and whoop her ass many, many times. And it was just a situation where I got obsessive about it and just kept thinking about how much she pissed me off and all of this stuff. And not long after that, I developed this frozen shoulder in my right arm, in my right shoulder, which would be my hitting arm if I were to hit. I've never been in a fight, by the way. So you know, I probably wouldn't be able to whoop anybody's ass, but if I were, I would do it with my right arm. And my right arm essentially stopped working for a solid 8 months because maybe I was supposed to kick her ass. I don't know. Not sure. But what I do know is that I was carrying that energy and I didn't find an outlet for it. And I needed to find an outlet for it, probably a better one than kicking her ass. But some place to put that energy because I was holding it. And then I started to guard myself and my shoulder froze up on me and it was frozen for almost a whole year.
And then she
So
moved out
perfect
and now it's
example.
like moving, right?
Yeah, she's no longer there and now like full use of my arm.
Oh. If you guys had seen Chrissy with her frozen shoulder, it was like she was dragging one arm around, like she wasn't gonna like hug you. She's gonna need help unzipping her dress. Like it was a
I gave one-armed hugs for like almost a full year.
yeah, so if you have anything going on in your physical body, just double check that it's not related to something emotional. I think that a lot of people don't equate the two. They think physical is physical and emotional is emotional, but like they're finding so much connection with energy and emotions in most illnesses. So I think not every illness can be explained by that, but I think a lot of them can. I think that when anybody in my family, like we're a really healthy family, but when anybody gets sick, it's usually like we're run down or we're overdoing it or we're burnout or not setting boundaries or like so just think about that. But let us know your hot takes. Make sure to share this with somebody you love. We will drop all the links we talked about in the show notes. And make sure to follow us both on Instagram. I'm NicoleEaton.xo.
I'm Christy Clarity.
And go get you some chips and dip. We love you. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.